Are you watching your game?
What?
Are you watching your game?
What do you mean?
You being
Oh,
real?
shit. Our gain is good.
Yes, no, we're good.
My gain is good. Got my coffee. Look, we got nothing to worry about, dog.
Man, I'm...
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, world. This is it. I guess we're live.
Oh, wow, yes.
They can see us. Hi, how's it going? I got a handicap.
Yeah, we plan on signing that a little bit later. Wow, my mouth got dry real fast.
My man's Mark is real nervous. I'm very nervous as well, but I'm just good at dressing it up, pretty much. Why are you so nervous? Why don't you talk? Let's talk through these.
I don't know.
These feelings.
I really don't know. I'm just very fidgety right now. I got the butterflies, my mouth a little dry. It's almost as if like I'm in high school again, about to do my first talent show, and my lips was sticking to my teeth, you know?
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. Everybody who's here loves you. That's why they're here. Otherwise, probably got something better to do on a Sunday.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
So, yo, do me a favor. Can you hit that the little close button?
Oh, I got you.
So we can see how many people are watching us. We got one viewer. Excellent. So,
thank you.
Welcome to Mama's Basement Live. The reason why we wanted to do this live episode is because we know we've been off the radar for a little bit. So we wanted to just reacclimate ourselves to the basement and to our fans and our friends, and just talk about basically anything you want to talk about, because this show is all about examining influences. And there's so many influences out there. There's no way we could cover all of them or even cover the ones that we covered in depth.
Absolutely.
So rip us apart if you're out there. Tell us why we suck.
Oh my God.
No, I'm kidding.
All right, but since we are going to talk about why we've been away for so long, so let's just talk about what we've been going through. So let's start with you. So what is this, about like 3 weeks, a month?
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken,
little bit more
our
than a
last episode was the end of May.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. It was like mid-June.
Mid-June. Yeah. Oh, yes, that is right. You're right.
Well, like, you know, obviously we're all living in the same world, so I don't need to tell you guys what's happening on the news. I don't need to tell you about COVID. I don't need to tell you about Black Lives Matter, but, you know, we saw in the past month things get really wild and really interesting. And, you know, it kind of hit close to home because a dear friend of mine got tackled by the police during a peaceful protest.
Right.
His name is Miles Carter, and, you know, he asked me to help him tell his story. So I answered the call, and I underestimated the physical and emotional toll all of this was going to take on us. And that's something we really got to think about, especially as it pertains to how we are all influenced, because the news is one of the biggest forces out there as far as informing us of what's happening in the world, how we see the world, how we view the world. So basically being a part of the news as in like living it firsthand, it was wild. It was wild. So I guess I didn't have the capacity to take on Mama's Basement, take on my own life. That kind of swept me away. And yeah.
I can understand that. But I know you were also working on some other things. I know you've been trying to work on your own work as well. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
I have been trying to write. You know, there's a lot of contests right now geared towards emerging writers, writers with diverse backgrounds. So, you know, and obviously I got my degree in screenwriting, so right. I got to do something with it. But you know what's funny is chasing your dreams is one of the hardest things imaginable. It's so easy to do a job. I'm not gonna say easy, but doing a job, you basically you receive instruction and you go ahead and you execute. But when you're chasing your dreams, you are out there in the wilderness,
right?
Uncharted territory, sickle, compass in hand, and you got to figure it out on your own. So even though now, thanks to the CARES Act, I have the freedom to write, when I actually sit down in front of the keyboard, it's really hard to actually do it. And we have a viewer out there that wants to know if we're wearing any underwear.
Stop it.
Why don't you come to the studio and find out for yourself? Did I say studio? I meant the basement.
Yes, the basement. Yes, we are not wearing pants, but we are wearing underwear. Yes,
that's truth. I mean, it's hot. We got the AC off, so got to let the breeze flow, you know?
I am technically wearing swim trunks. You know?
So yeah, I mean, basically, it's been hard to like do what I imagined I was doing. So what I imagine I would like to do. I mean, what about you? You have this newfound freedom too. I'm supposing. How have you been making the most of this time or not?
Right. Well, the path that I was on before this whole COVID thing happened, like I told you off screen, I was really involved with the Erie County Democratic Committee. So I had worked with 2 individuals on their campaigns, etc. I would go door to door, knocking on people's door, educating them about the candidates.
Political activism, like literal, but like the real political work.
Just a little bit, you know what I mean? So I was doing that a lot. And then leading up to COVID, I had actually gotten a position, a government job where I was supposed to go to youth homes and talk to them about drug abuse and tobacco use. And unfortunately, obviously, with COVID happening, you know, people aren't going to be going into people's homes, et cetera. So after that fell through, I had a lot of free time. And luckily, we had this. But I also am looking towards, you know, trying to be like a football coach and doing some other things. As you know, I purchased some equipment. I'm trying to make music. I'm just trying to do the most that I possibly can with this free time. Just try to be as productive as I can, because when I'm not, I tend to fall into like a rut. You know what I mean? I tend to get lost and kind of get into a lull. And I try to defeat that by being as productive as possible.
Do you think we judge ourselves or value ourselves based on our productivity?
Yeah. I the thing is, I think it is important. I think that we might put too much emphasis on it.
Right. Like, how many people are like, I'm intrinsically important because I'm just a human being.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But it's like, if we haven't achieved anything, we don't feel worthy.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, it's understandable though, because like, you got to think about it, especially when you compare yourself to your peers. Not that we try to, but it's inevitable. You know what I'm saying? You see your peers, people you went to school with, they're doing these things, and you start thinking to yourself like, okay, if they were able to do this in this amount of time and accomplish these things, I could have at least did this. I could have at least done this. And unfortunately, it leads to the feelings of inferiority.
Right. And I think that's part of the reason we did this show, is
Absolutely.
Because you and I were both living still with our parents, and by being here, I feel like we lose some of our intrinsic value as humans. And I know a lot of people are in the same situation where, you know, it's kind of delayed independence, or this prolonged period of adolescence where we're in our late 20s, yet we haven't flown the nest. And that makes me feel like a turd sometimes.
Oh, man, without question. A lot of times I wake up, I just think to myself, I got to get the hell up out of here.
Right.
I just have to. I have to leave. This is embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But then, like, I think about all the things that I have done and how much my mom does really appreciate it. Even when I bring up the idea of moving out, it low key, like, there's this feeling of hurt that comes across her face. It's crazy and it's sad. But you know, it's inevitable. I got to get the hell up out of there.
Absolutely.
I have to, you know.
Dr. Farhan says that purpose and personal responsibility is the way we value our lives. Now, that's actually great. I wish we could all frame it that way, but I think, at least in the society we live in, our value is determined a lot in part by our profession, our income, more so what we produce than what we believe. You know, purpose is a belief. You know, if you believe that you are, for example, created to serve nature,
right?
You know, that's a commonly held belief, is that we're all created to serve, the force of nature. You know, you may find more intrinsic value in simply being. In breathing, you're participating in the respiration system, taking in oxygen from the trees, breathing out CO2, giving it right back to them. And maybe you find intrinsic value in that. But as Americans, we are constantly trained to look at achievement, don't you think?
Well, yeah, but I agree with Farhan. I think that there's still an opportunity and place for individuals to really try to delve in. And we talked about this during the mental health episode, that self-evaluation, really taking the time to break down and figure out what those values really are. Like you just talked about, if those things really matter to you, what are you going to do to make sure that your life is in accordance with those values?
Right.
And so like I said, I agree with Farhan. I think that if people would take the time to more so self-evaluate and really critically look at their life and figure out what their purpose really is and what really brings out passion within them, so that way they can live their life to their fullest.
But I think that's idealistic, though, because human beings, we are social animals.
Yes.
I heard somebody even describe us as herd animals. You know, we're like, honestly, like sheep. We seek leaders, we follow leaders, and we seek validation. So while it is great to say that, you know, purpose and personal responsibility should be how we value our lives, the truth is a lot of people derive their value from how others view them and how they're viewed in relationship to others around them, whether they have excelled or met the achievements of their peers. And, you know, even if you look at the word influence, I'm not an etymologist, so this is going to be total BS, but there's the in, so the movement, and then the fluence, the fluidity. So influences are external to us,
right?
And then they flow into us. So when we seek to be valued, we seek to be valued by the things that influence us, because we want what we put out to be like that thing to reciprocate and respond back to us. I was watching this Taylor Swift documentary last night, Miss Americana. How many people, the second they see Taylor Swift, they just melt. You know, she is one of the grandest influencers in the pop music scene. So when they see her and they're like, and Taylor says, "Hey, I love you," it's like the one fan said, "This is the greatest moment of my life."
That's wild.
So while it's idealistic to say purpose is how we should value ourselves, I don't think that's how people value themselves at all. I mean, maybe, again, that's generalizing.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like we look for value. We look to be validated. We talked about that, didn't we, as well?
Yes. And I think being validated more so than anything. And that's why I'll say it's truly a mixture of both. Obviously, there's individuals who, when they do things, they want to be validated by others. I mean, a lot of times that's their motivation. You know what I'm saying? But other individuals, all they need to do is be validated. They could be working on something by themselves. They could have that internal motivation by themselves. As long as they get it done and it's approved by somebody, they're not necessarily looking for any influence whatsoever. That validation means more so than anything.
Taylor Swift is not trash. Nobody is trash. Nobody. Okay.
Well, except for that toy from Toy Story 4. I love
even
trash.
he isn't trash.
Oh, but that was his name. That was his name. Yes, he's not trash.
Forky believed he was trash. He believed he belonged in the trash. Remember that?
Trash. That was much.
But the whole quest of the movie was to teach him that he wasn't.
Yes.
Just because you were made from trash doesn't necessarily make you trash.
Oh,
so
man.
no.
Yes.
No.
I love though.
Taylor Swift is treasure. Okay. And Taylor's it's interesting because in her documentary, she basically made the claim that her desire is to be good. Like, she wanted to be good and she wanted to always be seen as good. And that's why it hurt her so much when she was portrayed as a snake. And but I think I got me thinking, like, how many of us just want that? Just want to be good. Just want to be seen as good.
Not me.
Not you.
I mean,
you don't care about that?
No, I don't. As crazy as that sounds, like
evil.
Yeah, just a little bit.
What?
No, I mean, I think because, like, good in its definition changes amongst each and every individual. To be good and, like, for you is different for somebody else. So I don't really care about being good. I care about being respectful.
You don't think there's a universal truth?
No.
You don't think God exists?
I never said that.
Well, if God exists, then isn't there a universal truth?
I think, like I said, I don't think there's a universal good in terms of truth. Ooh, see, I like what she's saying right there.
What's up, Mariam?
I love that.
And again, we totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Yes, objectively,
Yes.
our value as human beings is not based on society's idea of
Yes.
success. However, I think just as social animals, we kind of desire that and we crave that. And part of enlightenment maybe is to be able to look past whether or not society actually approves of what you do or validates what you do. But I think we are pre-programmed to almost want that, to want that pat on the back. You know, that's why we talk about nurture and neglect,
Right.
you know, from our parents.
Well, I was just about to say, I feel like for me, I think it's more so important, not necessarily from society, but from your familial unit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever's closest to you, whether it's community, whether it's within your household, I think that matters. I think that matters a lot. Because once you could do it at a smaller level, then if each individual within their household is doing what they need to do, then it just makes that community better, makes that town better, makes that whole state better. So if we could find a way to get people to start being more focused on the family unit, and finding support from them and their loved ones versus individuals who really don't necessarily matter as it pertains to their everyday life.
So maybe we get ourselves in these traps because we worry so much about being valued in and of ourselves rather than looking at the health of the units that we belong to.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
who cares if us in and of ourselves, like if I have the best reputation in the world when everything is crumbling around me, you know, and that's the problem with our leadership. Sorry, this ain't a political show, but our president is more concerned with his approval ratings,
Right.
with his ratings on his, press conferences than he is concerned about the well-being of the whole. He's more worried about his own personal reputation, his own personal well-being, his own validation. And I guess his niece's book, you know, how the niece did this expose, it makes a case that Trump was so neglected and loathed by his parents that he started to become narcissistic and seek that for himself. So maybe we got to stop caring what people think.
Maybe.
And start caring how people are and how people feel. Like, you could hate me, but as long as you're doing well, that's great. That's great.
Well, yeah, I guess what you're trying to get at is that it's a losing battle to worry about people's thoughts. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because unless their thoughts manifest themselves into a detrimental action, then obviously there's something you could do. But if it's just a thought, like I'm not concerned with what people think. I can't control their thoughts. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, that's a losing battle. That's a battle that I'm going to have in my mind all the time. I'm thinking about it while that other person is going about their day, probably not even worried about you. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, that's what I try to do. Like worry about the things that I can control. That's it.
Right. But sadly, because of this social nature, we allow others to shape and reshape us in order to achieve what we think is a level of success that is palatable to society rather than palatable to ourselves. And to that, I say we got to put the I back in identity. Like, and this is going to be counterintuitive to what we were just saying about, you know, the well-being of the collective.
Right.
However, you know, in order to find that sense of fulfillment, you know, your identity needs to boil down to you and how you view your life in relation to your own goals, in relation to yourself.
Yep, your values, your beliefs, everything.
Right. But I want to kind of bring it back to the idea of good, because you said you don't care about being good.
Like I said, I just feel like I said, I'm not worried about no universal truth. I don't want to go there. But in terms of just good, like good can be defined, or the definition of it can change depending on who the individual is. So like I said, I'm not worried about being good or bad. All I worry about is being honest and respectful. That's it.
But that is being good.
If you say so, maybe to you.
So
to other people, like it depends on their intentions and what they're trying to achieve. You know what I'm saying? Good could describe an action leading up to something that produces something bad. Oh, you did a good job, even though what they're doing is bad. You see what I'm saying? So like it can really mean anything. So I'm not concerned with being good.
So you don't let other people's ideas of what's good and what's bad influence you.
Exactly.
But do you let the idea of good influence you? So there's a difference. I'm not
right.
we could say other people's conceptions of good, but I mean, like, generally being good, like what good means to you.
I
Does
want to
that
be
have
better.
an impact or influence
I
on
want
the
to be
things that
better.
you do?
That's what I want to be. I want to be better. I don't look at things and say, oh, I want to be good. No, I want to be better. So every day that I wake up, I'm trying to progress. I'm trying to be better. I'm not trying to be good. I'm trying to be better.
Interesting. In Arabic, we have this term called ihsan, which is excellence, or
like
it's to do things better. And because ihsan and ahsan means better. Ihsan is the better, the excellent. So like we should aspire to do things with ihsan, not necessarily with khair, which is goodness. So I guess, yeah, when you say better, you are saying in relation to yourself. So that addresses that. But these ideas, like good, you
Yes.
can't say that it's not influential.
I want to say that. Like I say, because, this show, it's about us speaking about our perspectives.
Right.
So I would never tell anybody to think like I think or anything like that. That's just my view on things. And I'm weird like that.
Well, good. Because too many people try to be too controlling nowadays. It's like, especially like, within friends groups,
Yes.
and we see in our age of heightened tension and discourse, it's like a lot of people are like, oh, if you don't think like me, I don't want to
Right.
have anything to do with you.
Right.
You're clearly not good. So I guess when it comes to goodness, you're saying that we need to aspire to a level of goodness that's in relation to how we view our lives, not in relation to what others think is good for us. We need to make
Right.
those determinations on our own.
Right. And again, nobody's saying that, to do whatever you want to do without considering the welfare of the citizens around you. I would never say that. But like I said, I'm speaking to the individuals of goodwill who really just want to succeed in life. You know what I mean?
Have you ever done something that you thought was good, but somebody else was like, yo, what the hell are you doing?
Man, I would really have to think about that. That's a loaded question. I really would have to think about that, because most of the time, whenever you think you're doing something good and it turns out bad, it's usually good in your mind, bad in the other person's mind. And you usually don't find out till like later down the line when they tell you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would really have to think about that. What about you?
I mean, I feel like every day. I feel like every single day I'm doing something.
Stop
I'm like,
it.
yeah, I'm doing the right thing. Little do I know there's like a huge
Well, you said
fallout.
good. Now you said the right. So which one is it, good or right?
Well, for me, good and right are like
Are the same for you?
essential.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm
I mean,
just
doing what's
curious.
right is
Yeah.
doing what's good.
Okay.
We could shelve this for now. Getting too philosophical. Mark and I, our relationship really blossomed through music.
Yes.
We met each other in school, but we really became friends through choir.
Yes.
And then after we became friends through choir, we strengthened our friendship through freestyling in the backseat of a car.
And in my house.
And in the house,
Yes,
and in the street, and on the sidewalk, and in the
Parks.
store,
Yeah, everywhere.
bathroom. Music has to have been the most influential form of entertainment I think there is, even more so than TV and movies. Like, which is funny because I'm a movies guy, but like, music is probably one of the oldest art forms there is. It's one of the most easily accessible, easily feelable. Like, my music transformed my life. What about you?
Yeah, man, it's everything. It really is everything. And what's crazy is that I used to say to myself all the time, man, I don't need music. But then my radio broke in my car, and I didn't realize how much I love music till I realized almost every day when I'm in the car, I start beatboxing to myself no matter what. I need some type of sound when I'm driving. I need it. I need sound. I need instrumentals. I need music. I need it.
What are some of the earliest memories you've had with music where you started to feel the power of music? Like you started like, damn, music is crazy.
I would say the Boys and Girls Club talent show when I was 7. We did this little talent show thing, and I sang this song from Nelly.
Which song?
If you want to go and take a ride with me with 3 women in the 4 and the Ghost TV.
So why must I feel this way?
Hey, must be the money. So yeah, so I did that joint. And I came in second place.
Nice.
And it was really dope. And I had so much fun. The crowd was cheering me on and everything. And I won some Bison tickets. It was super fun. And I loved it so much. And eventually I did that. And then the next year at Windermere, I actually was in the play. I was in the musical. I was a little bumblebee. So those two things, yeah, man. Those two things definitely just it brought out the entertainer in me. It was great. I loved it so much. So 7 years old. What about you?
Mariam said that was her favorite song from Nelly. I like that a lot. Personally, I was more of a country grammar fan. I'm going down, baby. Yo, street in the rain. Go street sweeper, baby.
Ready to let it go. That was my jam. Or underlay, mama, E-I. Uh-oh. What's popping it now? That was my jam.
Ah, man. My earliest record was Eiffel 65. I'm blue. So, I just remember, like, whenever that song came on and I was a kid, I would just get so happy. And just even though it's a song about being sad, which is juxtaposition at its finest. But we have interesting relationships with music as Muslims because for a while, until today, there is a big school of thought that says music is haram, like sinful to listen to. Which doesn't make sense to me at all because like birds sing and like, you know, when you get the birds singing and the trees whistling and like the acorns dropping, you almost have a
there's like a nice little syncopation that happens. And
exactly.
Yes, it's lovely.
So like there's like music is natural, but I think that was more speaking to, if anything, the influence of music and what the scholars were trying to do was like, yo, music is so powerful, so influential, it could really literally reshape the way you think. So you might as well stay away from it entirely. But ironically, one of my earliest exposures to music and understanding of the power of music was learning about the story when our prophet migrated to Medina, which was the city that he took refuge in. There was a band of people who sang to him as he entered the city, and they beat their drums and they sang. They called him the White Moon. And they described his arrival as a white moon rising over us from a valley. And dang, I was like, how could you scholars tell us that music is sinful when our prophet was celebrated through song, right, through cheer, and he liked it. He loved the poetry of it. So there was just like this dialectic where it's like, yo, don't listen to music, it's bad for you. But then again, hey, this kind of music can be good for you.
Yeah.
So I teetered between like hip hop and like religious music throughout most of my life. And that's like what basically started to tear my personality apart. Because on the one hand, I would listen to the white moon rising over us. On the other hand, I was in love with a stripper. So.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. There's definitely some segments within rap and hip hop that tends to be something that most people wouldn't want their children to listen to, or even adults don't want to listen to, etc. But I think that unfortunately, because of mainstream media, the coverage of music, especially hip hop and rap, I think that has caused more damage than anything.
What do you mean?
Because I think that when you think about the music or the rap music that necessarily gets played on certain stations or through mainstream radio, those are the things that got disseminated to the masses per se. But now obviously we have other mediums to where we can listen to music. But you think about the way people talk about rap music still as if there isn't other music that they could listen to. And even back then they could still listen to different music. However, it was through the radio. So like most people, that's where they listen to their music. You know what I'm saying? And even the music that was explicit, parental advisory, etc., they would still cop it and, you know, put it in their CD players. But I think that it's important to illuminate the fact that with hip hop and rap and things like that, there's so many different genres within that genre in and of itself. Do you get what I'm saying? So like there's many artists who rap about many different things other than, you know what I'm saying, drugs, money, and women. And unfortunately, the only one that seems to get talked about are the ones that talk about drugs, money, and women.
Did you ever get in trouble for any of the music you listened to?
Nah, never. Nah, go ahead.
No, why?
Just because like my mom honestly wouldn't be home, and truthfully, I would honestly listen to R&B more than anything. R&B
can be some of the most scandalous music there is, bro.
Sometimes. Oh, well, yeah. Yo, Pretty Ricky. Yo, don't start.
I was listening to that when I was like 11.
Yo, yes.
Grind on me, baby, yeah. Nah.
That was my song, yo. Oh my gosh.
So why do you think like the music that, like you mentioned, talks about drugs, alcohol, sex? Why do you think that rises to the mainstream and a lot of the more conscious music doesn't and remains underground?
I would say that I'm not qualified enough to necessarily give a poignant answer. However, what I will say is that unfortunately sometimes people deem it boring. You know what I mean? And that's just one excuse. I mean, I really don't know. Like, I guess I would have to interview or talk to those who had those, you know what I'm saying, those companies, those music companies.
If y'all have any insights for this question,
you know what I'm saying?
Know.
I know many artists who are not mainstream, who are very good, and just one off the top of my head, his name is Odyssey. And I listen to his music a lot, and it's fire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not about, you know, drugs or anything of that nature.
Odyssey's sick. I heard him actually
at
a concert in Chicago. I think he's Chicago based. Maybe.
I can't remember. I think he might be from Harlem or DC or something like that. I cannot
Chicago
remember.
Rap is the best rap. Opinion, by the way. That and Southern rap.
Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna dive in, although my like favorite rapper of all time is from the South, so I can't really. No.
Damn it.
Andre 3 Stacks.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
that's without question.
Respect.
Yes.
I mean, my theory about that is that like it boils down to catharsis, and like this is what a lot of the ancients felt like was a purpose of art. It's like to exercise like our pains, to exercise our desires.
Yes. And I agree.
We have a soul, and like part of our soul is like this animal part, which is more drawn to hedonism and like basically like the basic impulses that a lot of these these songs appeal to. So I feel like part of us, when we listen to songs about like sex, drugs, alcohol, although we may not espouse that lifestyle for ourselves, we feel maybe a little adventurous, a little rebellious when we listen to it.
I mean, those are parts of human beings like that. Yeah. The things that they talk about. I mean, people do give in to their vices often. You know what I'm saying? And like you were talking about, like I think when that first started happening, where they were talking about drugs and the things that were happening within those communities, it wasn't necessarily an advertisement for other individuals to do the same or to appropriate that lifestyle per se. It was more so them trying to illuminate and bring to the masses what is happening and that we need help. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So you're with the catharsis view.
Yes.
That's like, it's like a release.
Yes.
But now here's where it gets tricky. It's like, is it truly catharsis, or does it amplify those desires and bring them to, and instead of actually releasing them, does it add fuel and strengthen them? Like, I'll give you an example. I never wanted to try weed in my life. Right. Like growing up, I was like so adamantly against that. But after listening to an abundance of Kid Cudi, an abundance of B.O.B., Man on the Moon is the reason why I smoked my first joint.
Right. I mean, I can understand that, and I can see how people would do that and put the two together. I would just say this, that your beliefs weren't fixed, and in the sense that they weren't that strong. They weren't that strong.
Well, like my
Yes, your anti-weed position wasn't that strong if you were able to be influenced by a few artists you've never spoken to personally or anything of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted,
it was pretty damn strong. I mean, I lost friends over it. I was like, oh man, yeah, this guy gets high. I don't want to be their friend anymore.
How did you go from losing friends to it to then hearing artists do it, and then all of a sudden, did you gain those friends back? Did you go back to those friends? Listen, I listen to B.O.B. I listen to Kid Cudi. I'm sorry, guys.
How did I go from that to there?
Yes.
It really was the power of the music.
Wow.
Like specifically the song Cloud 9 by B.O.B. made it sound like so enticing. It made it sound It was just like the composition, the lyrics, this music. That's like, it had that flanger effect where it would go from the left to the right to the left. I was like, wow.
I love that.
So I music changed my perspective 180 degrees on that. So I guess like, I don't know. It worries me. It definitely worries me, because how many kids would would fall victim to the same thing. I mean, weed is quite innocuous compared
Yeah.
to a lot
Other
of the
things,
other
yep.
things that maybe music brings out of us.
Yeah. No, that's wild because I'm thinking about my first time with weed and everything, and I don't necessarily think it was music. It was strictly just social and peer pressure at the time, real talk. Because like you, I mean, remember I showed you that dare thing I had. I had the certificate. I was one of those people who would walk up to people and low key break their cigarettes, yo. Oh God, yo, I was one of those people. Yes.
My man was talking about how everybody's good is subjective earlier. 10 years prior, man was snapping people's cigarettes right out their mouth.
Oh my God.
This is wrong.
Yes, I was that person. Walk up to you. You know that's bad for you, right? Like I was that person. Fast forward 1 year, because I was doing that when I was still a freshman.
Yeah.
Fast
Wow.
forward, yes, freshman in high school. I was still doing that as a freshman in high
Wow.
school. So fast forward 1 year, I believe it was October or November. We had just won a football game, and I went out to Devo, my homie who had lived out in Amherst. And he was like, yeah, man, yo, you gonna stay with me this weekend? We gonna go to a party, and yo, you gonna smoke weed for the first time? I was like, what? I was like, I don't think so. He was like, yeah, man, don't worry about it, bro. I smoked. My man James smoked. Everybody smoked, bro. Yo, you gonna be fine. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't think I should do this. He was like, listen, man, you and I have been friends since we were 9. We're 15 now. We can and I'm like, all right, man, look, I'll try it, whatever. And everybody forgive me for this, but we ended up getting the bud, and there's like this blank sheet of paper in the beginning of the Bible, and we took that joint out, and he used that joint to roll it. And that's what yes, bro. Yes. That was my first time. It was October something. 15 years old. I know. It was bad. It was bad. But that's how it was, man. Strictly peer pressure. And yeah. Crazy.
I'm gonna go up to the pastor. How has the Bible affected your life? Well, the first joint I rolled was out of James the First.
Oh my goodness.
Well, here's the thing.
Yes.
Do you think music affected your decision also to go from
No.
dare boy to drug boy?
Not at all. Not at all.
No, Cloud9,
No, not at all. Like, yo, even like, cause you got to think, even the early 2000s, mid 2000s, you got to think there was G-Unit, Luda, Wayne, all these individuals. Like they talked about these things. Like I would barely listen to those things. As a matter
What
of
about
fact,
all the kids that would try purple drink just because Wayne did it? Like nobody even knew who what
Right.
purple drink was before Wayne, and then all of a sudden you got like all these high school kids like, yo, who's got some Robitussin? Like,
Yeah, see, I never got into stuff like that, man. Like,
That's good.
I really tried to stay away from the influences, and honestly, for myself, other than the weed thing, after that, like for the most part, I always made sure to know what I'm putting in my body.
Mhm.
So that's where everything else fell into place. But back to the music. For me, like I said, I wouldn't listen to rap and hip hop so often that other white kids at school would question my blackness because I wouldn't be able to quote lyrics from G-Unit, or you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So like that's just how it was. You know what I mean? I never really was that heavily into rap and hip hop when I was real young.
Weird. You just sparked something in my mind because it almost seems like music is certain kinds of music become associated with certain kinds of people.
Yes.
And it's to the point where if you don't listen to some genres, you are almost deemed excluded from some groups.
Right.
Like you said with hip hop and blackness. You know, I'm Arab, but I also often feel very distant from a lot of my Arab peers because I can't cite as much like Arabic music. Like I don't know a lot of Fairuz or Kulthum or like, you know, the classic artists, whereas a lot of people who grow up in more cultural Arab households can talk about all that and then they can
Right.
connect on that level.
Yeah.
So music becomes influential in terms of almost grouping people. And like a lot of the social groups, even growing up in high school and middle school, evolved out of the musics that they listened to. Punk came out of punk music, goth, emo music. Like what other forms of media creates tribes and groups and cliques. Like, we don't call people who watch comedy movies like, oh, look at those comics over there, or look at those dramas over there. But we'll say punk.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, people usually come up with different names. They might not say things like those comics over there or stuff.
No, but like,
Yeah.
do you
But
ever
I
group
agree with
someone
you.
based on the movies and TV shows they listen to? Does it?
See, I'm the worst person to ask for that because you know me, bro. You know that I don't really pay attention to those type of things.
By you, I mean the general.
Yes.
I mean, like, the
I think people do, yes. You know what I mean? Like, people who watch Star Wars, they usually group those individuals together.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I hear that.
Or like, you know what I mean? Or
I hear that.
it could really be anything, really. But I do think it is more so with music. I do
Yeah.
agree with you. I definitely do, because I know a lot of people, like, as soon as you say country music, people have this idea of what those individuals look like who listen to country music. You know what I'm saying?
And then you think about how each country has their own anthem. Then each school has its own alma mater, and then you start to see that music. Not only is it a form of entertainment, it is almost like a rallying cry.
Oh, yes.
And it's like, you know, I'm from New York, you know, dudes from California, dudes from Texas, but we can all sing the Star Spangled Banner. We all put our hand on, not all of us do anymore. So a lot of us kneel, and we should, but, you know, but we all recognize the same tunes.
Yes.
So that makes us one in the same group, you know? Yeah, I can't really think of any other art form that has that effect. I really can't. Can you?
I don't
Not
think
drawing,
so. Yeah, like,
not-
ooh, no. Yeah, I don't think as impactful as music. I don't think so in terms of the grouping of individuals. Yes, I agree with you in that sense.
So what is it that makes music so powerful and so influential?
Well, I think before we talked about how when people listen to music, the feelings that they get sometimes, and especially some songs that have certain lyrics that really just hit home and make you feel as though the artist is speaking to you.
Yes.
So when that happens, like, all of a sudden, if you could find people who feel that same way about that song, like you just talked about, that commonality that happens, like, it's extremely strong. And to know that the way that song made you feel helped other individuals feel that way too, oh, it's so powerful, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, you know, growing up, we have all these angsts, I think. And I think growing up, we make ourselves lonelier than we truly are. But then we find company when we hear a song lyric that resonates with our experience. It's like, wow, I'm such a sour, lonely kid. And then you hear the song, Welcome to My Life. And it's like, oh my God, that's me. And then you start to feel a little bit less alone.
Right, exactly.
And then music, it's like, it creates this experience within us that complements lyrics, complements words with emotions. Like, I could tell you, you know, Mark, I think your eyes have the depth of a Milky Way chocolate bar.
Oh my God, are you hitting on me?
Absolutely. But you throw that onto a nice violin, you know, and then all of a sudden, my words have this added dimension of the unspoken, the abstract. Because ultimately, what are words but, you know, phrases that are passed on to us to give voice to feelings that we experience. But not every feeling has a word, you know, that we can articulate. Versus, you know, a violin or a drum, which literally gets our heart racing.
Yes.
You know, we can't articulate that experience, but we can feel it when we hear the beat drop.
I agree. That's a lovely feeling. And that's the thing with music. I know a lot of people who are unable to express themselves, but they'll send you a song and be like, this is me. This is how I feel. You know what I mean? And that just means a lot. And man, music is so big. That's why I want to create music so badly, just to be able to make something that is just sonically beautiful. That's all I really want.
So, a couple questions I have for you.
Oh God, here we go.
And if you guys have any questions and you want to chime in on how music has influenced you, or some of the most influential songs you've heard, some of the most influential songs you think that influence society, because There's like songs that become so big,
Yes.
they change us. I think I really do believe that. Like, This Is America,
That's a good song. I don't think it changed me.
but I think it changed a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people looked at it and were just like, wow, that's illuminating.
Right.
For me, it was just like, oh.
Well, we've known.
Yeah.
We've been known that This Is America. So
Yeah.
it's just like,
just,
but to have an anthem
Yes.
to articulate,
Yes.
like,
I think before that one, it was All Right. That one definitely took on its own vibe of its own. And I love that song with all my heart. Like, I love that very much. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And hell, I believe in 2015, I remember, or 2016, when Kendrick performed, and then he did the joint from To Pimp a Butterfly. That whole album.
The Blacker the Berry?
Yes. That whole album, fire. Just beautiful.
So what do you get out of creating music?
I would say the biggest thing, just joy. It just seems to put a smile on my face, yo. Like, whether I'm alone, whether I'm around individuals, it just brings out this feeling within me where I can't help but smile. I can't help but listen to it and bop and feel good and be moving, and there's just a rhythm within my body. And like I said, I can't help but stop smiling, even if it's trash. It doesn't even matter. I look at it, I laugh. I'm like, yo, let's run it back. Let's do it again. And it just makes me real happy. And I guess what I want to do is be able to transfer that joy into a song, and hopefully others can enjoy that as well.
Y'all ready for another epiphany? Music is one of the only art forms that brings out our mental sensibility through its lyrics, our emotional sensibility through the abstract
Makes sense.
experiences evoked by the actual melodies, and our physical sensations of movement, because music can literally make you move
Absolutely.
to the beat. So I think that's what makes music so powerful. It stirs everything within us, for better or for worse.
Yeah, I agree.
You can hear a song and like actually literally start to sink, start to see yourself sinking, start to cry, have goosebumps. Bob your head. I don't think I've moved. I don't think I've seen a painting that made me move that way. Movies often do, but movies utilize music as a tool to create that experience.
Oh man, yo, those scores really add a lot.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Whew. Man, although I don't like horror movies, whenever I hear that menacing music, I know what's coming. It's frightening.
Somebody's gonna die.
Yes, it adds so much more. It's crazy.
It becomes a point where certain sounds start to like literally evoke like that feeling.
Yes.
God. And I remember the first time I like created a song, because I've created music as well, and it just makes you feel so powerful. Like, real talk, like creating something, and when you're able to make words hit the beat at the right time, and then it all adds up to make a message, you just like, it's that release. And I think this is probably gonna be as deep as we go, because what I realize about music and creating music, and even us and creating the show, is I think that as human beings, we want to persist in, like everything else in nature wants to persist. Everything, every tree gives a seed that grows and keeps a species going. Every animal, procreates. But as human beings, we want our ideas to persist. So when we create something and it's played over and over, it's almost like we're living on.
Yes.
Through each time our idea is replayed, each time our song is replayed, as we create this podcast, and then it gets sealed on the web, it's like we've taken a part of us, and now that part is going to be everlasting. So I often wonder, as human beings, how much of what we do is done with a view of us wanting to live forever.
I love that, and I think for some, it's definitely at the forefront more so than others. But I think that is the underlying factor behind it all, because we talked about this with when we talked about having children. Remember, we talked about being able to have children and seeing ourselves within our child, being able to know that they're going to be able to live on forever, pass along those generations and genes, etc. I think it's the same thing with our ideas. You know, when we're able to produce something with our hands, with our mind, that benefit people emotionally, physically, or societally, it I can only imagine the feeling, and I hope that we can have that type of impact with this show, and I hope that we can continue to have that type of impact, whether it's with us doing another show, music, your movies, etc. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a huge underlying factor, and that would mean the world to me, you know?
Do you think about death?
Honestly, a lot more lately.
Why?
I don't know. Like, I guess because of my mom. Like, my mom's just been talking about it a lot more because, you know, she's obviously older, and so she just be worried.
What is it about moms and like
Yes.
mortality?
Oh my gosh.
Like my mom
man.
always be saying this thing. Like if her and I get in an argument, she'll be like, "What? You're going to miss me when I'm gone." I'm like, Mom, I just don't
Yes.
want fish for dinner. Well, you will miss me when I perish.
Yes, dude. Yes, I hear that all the time,
Like,
and
It
it's
doesn't have to be that.
yes. And so because of her, yes, I've been thinking about it a lot more lately. But just, I guess, it's more of like fearful thought. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I just the finality of it
Yeah.
is frightening, honestly. So that's where my thoughts usually go. I'm not trying to be this dark right now, but that's
Oh,
that's
I want you to
that's
get
the truth.
darker.
Yeah.
I want to know, like, have you had a near death experience in your life?
Ooh. Hmm. You know what? I have to say no.
No, none.
Yeah, I don't think
Never
so.
stared the Grim Reaper in the eyes.
No, no. I've had moments. I've been in accidents and things like that, but never to the point where like I was gravely hurt or anything like that. I've been places where I might have heard gunshots maybe a few miles away, but I didn't think it was anywhere close, and I would leave. You know what I mean? Like so. Like I luckily I know we shouldn't laugh because those are real things, but luckily I've right. Luckily I've been blessed. So although I've had accidents and little moments here and there, they've never been anything where I had to be worried about my mortality. And yourself?
Yeah, I've almost died.
Oof.
I almost drowned in my
Ah,
backyard.
yes, you and Indy.
Listen, don't go on a frozen lake in the middle of March when the grass is green.
Oh my god.
So yeah, we fell through the ice and I almost drowned, and were it not for my neighbor who was serendipitously doing yard work with like a 20-foot pole, and he yanked us out, I really would not be here today. And you know, as we prepare for this show, we think about the things that influence us. And you know, yesterday I had a really long conversation about our awareness of our mortality, and it made me realize that I think maybe more so than anything else, death influences what we do. It really does. For a lot of people, it might be the impetus to create,
Mm-hmm.
to be remembered,
Yes.
to have something live on, to have a legacy. You know, for me, I always wonder like why I have this anxiety that like, oh, I'm about to turn 30 very soon, you know, within the next few years, and
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't made a movie. You know, I still have like, why do we even factor in age as a number when we talk about achieving success? And I think that has to do with the fact that we are always aware that, you know,
Death is inevitable.
exactly.
Yeah.
So while it's not really about being successful while you're young, I think it's more so about being successful while we still have a chance.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think that when you talk about this, I know you're talking about death, but I think it's important to illuminate this, especially in America. The fact that we talk about individuals and how, like, when you first start off, like, we're somewhat like, you know, on the lower end of things as it pertains to our professions and achieving things. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Because fresh out of college, fresh out of high school, etc. You know, we're new to the job world. We're new to the adult world. So this idea that, you know, we need to get things done now, I think people need to take into account and realize that most people between those ages usually are just building up their resume, building up their credentials, so that once they hit 30, 40, 50, or whatever it may be, that's when they really start making their most money. You know what I'm saying? So I think that kind of falls right in line with that, so people understand that, yes, some people want to retire early so that way they can, you know what I'm saying, still be young, so that they can still live their life, have money, do all these things. And like you said, that pertains to their mortality, being young, the aging process, etc. Those things are important. But I think it's also important to note that, you know, although death can come knocking at any time, it's important to understand that you just got to keep progressing and doing what you can day by day, really.
And death itself goes also into why we choose the influences that we influence. I'm realizing that a lot of the reasons why I associate myself with things that aren't me, because when you think about an influence, in order for something to be an influence, it has to not be from you, but outside of you.
Yes.
So why do we associate with these things that aren't from us? And I think part of it is our innate desire to participate in something that is grander than our own life, you know?
Yep.
And yes, Mariam, you can't forget to live while you're just living.
Yes.
You know, but the idea of death is in the back of our minds. And if we let it consume us, then I'm sure we won't be living in the moment. But I think there's a way to take that awareness and use that as an impetus to make the most of the moment. You know, if death is inevitable, that means every breath that we take is essentially a gift.
Absolutely.
Because it could be your last, or it could be the first breath of the rest of your life.
I like that. And I guess people would just have to flip it and ask themselves, you know, if death was not inevitable, you know what I'm saying? Like, would we have purpose to our life? Like, let's say death did not exist. How would life be? You know what I'm saying? Would what we choose to do be different? You know, how would that impact the choices that we make, knowing that, you know, we can't die?
I almost think dying makes living even better. I think if there was no dying, there'd be no ending to the story. There would be no story, because without an ending, there is no story.
We would just keep going. And like I said, there would really be no meaning, because you could just do whatever you want.
Right.
If you were bad at one thing, you could just say, you know what, I'm going to chill for a year. I'm going to do this for the next 5 years. If this doesn't work, F it. I have a lifetime, literally.
I have forever.
Like, you know.
You want to jail me for life? Well, good luck with that. I'm going to outlast this whole building.
You know what I mean? That'd be wild, you know?
So we're winding down here. Within the next 5 minutes, we'll be closing out this episode. Thank you all for joining us for this live session. Please, we want to hear from you. We didn't have as much audience participation as we wanted, because there's only one active commenter, and that's Mariam. We thank you so much.
So much.
Seriously. But yeah, before we go, if there's anything you want to add, ask, comment about our journeys while we got here. Me and Mark, we're just trying to make a wave before we perish. So help us do that.
Please.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I'm always like trying to, for me, much like Taylor Swift, I want to be a good person.
Yes.
You know, where I'm going with this, I'm not entirely sure. I was trying to connect this all to death and dying while giving it a real positive spin. But realistically, I think that, you know, I think it's good to articulate that, or at least be aware that we have this ever-present concern on our minds.
Yes.
Because I think it'll help us understand why we're so anxious, why we're so easily swayed to be grouped in with things, because we want our life, our memory to persist beyond beyond our bodies. Do you want to take that question?
Yo, I know who that is too. Yo, listen, I'm going to let my drink grow out till it's down to my toes, boy. All right. Nah, truthfully, I am planning on getting a haircut. I was thinking about getting twists, but I don't know. I think my forehead's too big. I don't know.
It's all that brain he's got right there. All that
Yeah,
IQ.
it's just pushing right through.
Yeah,
I know
it's,
it, like
it's brimming.
listen, I gotta stop because
All right. So for those of us who have been watching the podcast, we want to thank you so much. We've done episodes on the influence of our parents, on the influence of happiness, on the influence of school
Yep.
and TV so far. Coming up, we got influences of love we are going to examine, the influence of the internet, and finally, the influence of God.
That's right. That last episode definitely is gonna be a very loaded one. I can't wait. And the Love and Internet episode, we really think that you guys are really gonna love it. We hit on a bunch of different things that I think is really gonna talk about the current culture that exists today in America.
Absolutely. So please stay tuned. We look forward to rocking out August with some quality content. If you haven't already, please subscribe, leave a comment, share our podcast with anyone who you think is struggling with their identity so that they can, struggle with us. And then maybe we can all get a little bit closer to finding out what it means to be human while your mom is upstairs listening to everything you say. But yeah, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming by the live.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please stay safe and enjoy the weather, but safely.
Eid Mubarak to you too. Take care. We'll see you next week with love.